And global auditor KPMG plans to lay off up to 400 people in South Africa in its latest shakeup following a corruption scandal that saw it lose several major clients. The auditor has taken a number of steps since last September to help restore its reputation, including changes to corporate governance and management and measures to improve risk management. KPMG plans to have just 4 business hubs in South Africa, in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban and Port Elizabeth, and close other regional offices. The auditor's South African unit has been under close scrutiny since 2017 over work done for a company owned by the Govt family, who have been accused of using their links to former President Jacob Zuma to influence government decisions and the awarding of tenders, and more recently for failing to disclose loans from small lender VBS Mutual Bank. And Kenya Airways is close to winning approval to run the country's main airport in Nairobi, looking to copy a model that has enabled rivals to overtake it. The loss-making airline had proposed forming a special purpose vehicle with state-run Kenya Airports Authority, allowing the airline to run Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for a minimum of 30 years. Kenya Airways, which is owned 48.9% by the government and 7.8% by Air France KLM, had $2 billion of debt restructured by the government and shareholders last year, and it is planning new routes as it tries to recover from years of losses. The plan to run Jomo Kenyatta Airport is vital for the national flag carrier's survival, as it has faced limited choices after last year's financial restructuring. And Algeria has hired U.S. law firm Curtis, Mallet Prevost, Coast and LLP and other consultancies to help with a new energy law aimed at attracting much-needed investment. The OPEC producer, which is also a major gas supplier to Europe, has been trying to attract more foreign investors, but firms have been reluctant, complaining about bureaucracy and tough terms. The North African country has been working on a new law, but it is unclear when it will be ready, as many players are involved. Debate over reforms is often slowed by competing ideas inside a government with a history of state planning and where the ruling old guard remains wary of opening up the country. Algeria has struggled in the past to increase oil and gas output without major foreign investment. Well, let's look at the land reform issue in South Africa, where land is an emotive issue in South Africa, where inequality and racial divisions persist long after the end of apartheid. The debate has so far focused on farming and rural areas, but towns and cities could hold the key to President Cyril Ramaphosa's government drive to expropriate land without compensation, as residents of informal areas like the sprawling Alexandra Township hand on a promise that they too can own their own peace.
Dean and his 2 children live in this one-room shack in Johannesburg's Alexandra Township. He is among millions of South Africans waiting to own a plot of land they can call home after nearly 3 decades of promises from a post-apartheid government.
Living in such small space, actually, it's like living like an animal. A dog lives in a one room or house. It's like this. That's why sometimes it just frustrates me. This is not actually for human beings to live in such conditions.
Alexandra is home to hundreds of thousands of people crowded into a mix of formal and informal structures. Unemployment here runs at 25% and violent crime is rife. During apartheid, the black majority was crowded into urban townships and rural reserves, and it was illegal for Africans to acquire land beyond those settlements. 56-year-old Sheila Ndlovu has lived in her parents' one-room house since the 1990s, when Nelson Mandela's release from prison gave millions of poor black South Africans hope for a brighter future.
My eyes are full of tears. They're full of tears, but you cannot see them. What is even more hurtful is that all the other places have changed, but not Alexandra. This place is cluttered and congested. You can't even see where you are. So why does Alexandra not change? Even when the ANC's Mandela came into power, everything else changed, but Alexandra defeated him.
Owning land removes the threat of eviction, allows residents to raise capital, and gives families something they can hand down to the next generation. But dormant land in itself is not enough, says socio-economic researcher Angelo Fick. The challenge facing the government is managing urbanization.
Majority of South Africans live in towns and cities. More of them want to move to towns and cities. They need to be accommodated, and that needs to be done not just in terms of having access to land, but the services that come with living inside cities and towns, which government then has to provide for. So the challenge for the South African government, shall we say 24 years into post-apartheid South Africa, is to make sure that they manage the urbanizing process that was interrupted by apartheid, and that means investing in access to land for the majority of South Africans, and some of that is just basic living conditions in terms of housing and making a home in order to make a life inside a city.
Giving more poor South Africans land will not solve the huge challenges faced by Ramaphosa: government corruption, sky-high unemployment, and relentless demands for jobs, houses, and basic services. But to poor South Africans, living in shacks they don't own in impoverished townships, while the rich enjoy luxury homes with swimming pools, doesn't feel like Mandela's inclusive rainbow nation.
And to the global oil market, prices edged higher today after falling nearly 2% in the previous session. But growing U.S. production and expectations of higher OPEC supplies continue to weigh on sentiment. Brent crude futures added 15 cents to $75.44 a barrel after settling down 2% at $75.29 a barrel on Monday. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was up 28 cents at $65.03 a barrel. It finished the previous session 1.6% lower at $64.75 a barrel. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries is due to meet in Vienna on June 22 to decide whether the group and non-OPEC members, including Russia, will raise production to ease concerns over potential supply shortfalls from Iran and Venezuela. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll bring you a commodities update with a focus on sorghum. To stay with us.